What up guys, today I'm going to show you how to improve your Siryn Marvel Legends action figure with 2 custom parts. Once again, please like, comment, share, subscribe, or even hit that super thanks button. I do appreciate all engagement on my channel. Now the 2 parts in question over here is the custom head from RXT Project and the custom wired fabric poseable cape from 112 Props. I'm going to link both of their web stores in the description below, as well as their Instagram accounts, where you can DM them for your orders as well. And since both of them are from Indonesia, they also do partner up, so you can actually order items from both their stores and also save on shipping by having them all shipped together. So before we fit on the custom head and cape onto this figure, I just want to show you a couple of shortcomings on its default configuration. First of all would be her head sculpt. Her face is sculpted and painted beautifully. However, she ends up looking too neutral and too bored. And when you look at the sculpt of her hair, it's actually flailing in the wind. And that would only make sense if she was in flight, using her vocal powers. However, her face is sculpted with her mouth shut, and she's just looking quite neutral and bored. Ideally, we would have had 2 head sculpts with this figure. The more neutral one with a hair sculpt that's resting on her shoulders, and of course this hair sculpt blowing in the wind and sitting on the head with a facial expression where she's actually screaming and exerting her vocal powers. Next up, her cape is made from this really cheap looking synthetic fabric. To my eye, it looks a little too small for her body, not in line with her comic book character design. It's made really cheaply and you can see how it really kind of feels like paper in your hand. It's not very poseable, and to make things worse, it's actually printed on the back. So who's gonna actually display and look at their figures from the back? And when you look at the figure from the front, that's when you really see the green print on the fabric looking very faded, and it really doesn't look good at all. Next, I also think the cape looks kinda small. Like she put on a kid-sized cape. As far as I remember, for her design in the comics, she looked much better with a bigger flowing cape. And of course, that's also in line with the 90s design aesthetics from the comic books. So first up, of course, we're gonna pop her head off. And next, to get her cape off, we just have to pop her hands off and slide them off her forearms. And to get the cape off, you first need to heat the upper torso to warm up the plastic. Pop off the 2 arms from the torso, and that's how the original cape with these 2 holes in the middle was attached to the shoulder pegs. So after you slide this cape off, you can then pop the arms back onto the upper torso. And now to put on the custom cape, it's a much simpler exercise. There's a black elastic band. You just slide that onto the waist of the figure and then pull the top upwards behind her neck. Now you will see her straps around her shoulders now. You just want to slide that into her shoulder joints on both sides. And now you get rid of that elastic band by just slowly sliding it behind the upper side of her back. And finally, of course, you just align the holes on the ends of the cape with the wrist pegs and just peg the hands on with the cape slotted into those wrist joints. And now we're gonna pop on the RXT custom head. It comes in a metal box, very well packed. It's got a fair amount of foam cushion padding on the inside as well to keep the custom head sculpt safe. And now out of the Ziploc bag and popping it onto the figure. Now zooming into that head sculpt, and I can say it is really great work for the price. The entire head is painted from the light skin tone to the subtle blush on her cheeks, very sharp and defined eyebrows, and also really precisely applied eye makeup. Her eyes are what really impresses me, with the extremely fine paintwork for the whites, as well as the irises and pupils. The eyes are also painted with glossy paint, so those really sparkle and stand out. The work for her mouth is just as well executed, with red for her lipstick and really very fine lines for the whites on her teeth. And finally, there's a shade of pink for her mouth. Once again, also glossy, so the contrast of the glossy paints in her eyes and her mouth looks really realistic, especially against the flatter tones of her face. So overall, her expression is one that's stern, and she also looks like she's straining herself in a war cry. So this is definitely a stark contrast to the very serene and bored looking default head sculpt. Now we look at her hair and it is sculpted to the side, blowing in the wind with a good amount of clearance so that you still get a good bit of articulation and range in her neck. The hair sculpt is also got very fine details for the textures and the way that her hair is waving. It is painted in a darker burnt orange for the undertones and given a brighter, more vibrant shade of orange dry brush on top. So that really brings out the contrast in the different ways that the hair is textured and flows. So as prices for custom head sculpts go, I think it's reasonable for a good bit of sculpting and especially the paintwork. And now we go down to her custom cape from 112 Props. It's made from quality fabric and printed with very clear detailing between the greens and yellows. The yellow is close enough to the tones on her outfit, but the green looks brighter. I don't mind that because that contrast makes the figure look more interesting. What really also satisfies my OCD and looks very neat is how all the lines are curved and the cape is sewn exactly the same way to follow the curves of the lines. So that really looks fantastic in my opinion. I also like how all the lines are thinner on a larger cape, so you get way more line work. And this is a great throwback to the slightly busier designs for 90s X-Men characters. Now we move on to the back of the figure. And this is where the line work in the cape looks fantastic because the print is just as vibrant on both sides, making the back of the figure look really nice as well. If you've seen how I put on the cape as well, that elastic band and how this fits onto the figure is also quite innovative. So the band is concealed from the front. The cape also has wires all the way around its seam down the bottom as well as on top, so it's really very poseable. So overall, these two additions are a major enhancement to this figure. The bandy wire in the cape is strong and naturally can hold up the light fabric for more dramatic and extreme poses when you have her really exerting her vocal powers. So this is definitely a good option when you want to get her into more action poses. I think the cape and head really do add so much personality to this character even in a casual walking pose. And of course, naturally, I think she looks great in her flight pose, even with a slightly dramatic bit of posing for her cape. So I don't usually buy custom head sculpts, but when I saw this one listed on the RXT project website, that was originally meant for a Black Widow figure, because it came with darker red paint for the hair, I decided to ask him to paint the hair a more fiery orange. And now we're just gonna have a look at how versatile this head sculpt is for head swaps with Black Widow, Jean Grey, and Phoenix. Even though Black Widow is usually cool and composed in fights, I think this head sculpt definitely works for her for the rare instance that she's actually mad. I think it works well for an off-duty Jean Grey as well without her headgear on in this outfit. And finally, also working well for Phoenix when she's less maniacal and has got better control of the Phoenix Force. For my final thoughts, I'll say I'm genuinely pleased with both the incredibly well-made fabric cape and the versatile screaming head sculpt. To purchase both items, you can head to their online stores in the description below or DM them on Instagram, and they do work together, so you can save shipping by consolidating orders from both of them. I should also point out that this head sculpt is labeled for Black Widow on the RXT project site, but I got him to tweak the hair color for me and I'm happy with the results. Please like and share this video, let me know what you think in the comments below, subscribe to my channel, or even hit the super thanks button. Thanks for watching, take care and stay safe.